Hey, what's up? This is Gary from Raz Rentals, and I'm gonna cry. I have been dreaming of this since I was 3. Seriously, that's no joke. Ever since 1987, I've always wanted the rest of Bebop and Rocksteady's gang, you know. I watched my copy of the Shredder is Splintered VHS tape over and over and over again, and longed for the day when I could finally have these 4 dudes in physical form, you know, to fight my Ninja Turtle toys, along with Bebop and Rocksteady. Jersey Red, I have no affinity for, but, you know, these other 4, man, I never stopped thinking about them. As soon as the Fred Wolf series gained some momentum, these were the first guys that popped in my head, and they were even my number 1 pick on my 2020 wish list. Again, not including Jersey Red, but she's okay, you know. We'll talk more about her in a little bit. You know, seeing these 4 in the cartoon really inspired me to draw a lot as a kid, and they just made my imagination go wild. I'd draw like octopus mutants and alligators and lions and like any animal I could think of. I would make him like anthropomorphic. And you know, eventually the Playmates series sort of became that. You know, every series released brand new cool mutant animal characters, but unfortunately Grunt and Scrag disappeared into obscurity, and we never saw them or Dopey and Dumbo ever again. And as I said, finally, geez Louise, what's it been, 34 years later, we finally got them. So obviously, I got a ton to go over here, you know. I'm going to go over the original Bebop and Rocksteady Gang in the cartoon, and then I will talk about Jersey Red. She appeared, you know, a few seasons later, and she never even turned into a mutant. Can you believe that? So let's begin with the packaging, okay? I'll lead with Scrag, and then I'll move on to the 2-packs. All right, so Scrag was released first out of all these guys. He was included in NECA's second Lootcrate series. You know, he was a bonus figure if you bought all 4 Lootcrates during that second series, all right? And he came packed with the Dark Turtle and a few cartoon items, you know, a Triceraton pin, and like a party wagon license plate, stuff like that. He went up for pre-order all the way back in February of 2021. I got mine in October of 2022, and if you're curious, I'm recording this pretty much the end of March 2023, okay? Just like the 2-packs, this guy comes packaged in the like Turtle Van packaging. It's got the green on the top, yellow on the bottom. You know, he's a special character, I guess, figure in this line because there are only 4 single Fred Wolf series characters like this in the Party Wagon design or Turtle Van design. You have the Easter Bebop and Rocksteady and Scrag and the Dark Turtle. It's also different because it has a hang tab on the top here, and the 2-packs don't have that. In the front here, there's a nice big window so you can see Scrag and also his bat head, which is pretty cool looking, you know. Down on the front here, you have a nice illustration of Scrag. On this side, you have Scrag fully mutated into the bat design, and that's pretty neat too. And I'll show a little later too, like the original bat head, and then show this head to show you how it changed. Because originally, when he was put up for pre-order, they had pictured him with a different head. All right, now here's a regular picture of Scrag pre-mutation or after mutation with the retro mutagen ray generator, you know, that Shredder uses in Shredder and Splintered. On the back here, you have a picture of Scrag holding this giant sledgehammer. That's pretty cool. And down at the bottom here, you just have the other 3 Fred Wolf Lootcrate action figures that have been released. When you go back to the front and look on the bottom of the box, it reads Director Randy Falk, Trevor Zamet, Sculpt and Fabrication, Eric Barnett, Kushwara Studios, Paint, Jeff Trapp, Mike Puzo, Prototypes, Roger Fernandez, Photography, Steven Mazurik, Packaging, Travis Hasback, and that's it. Let's move on to the next 2-pack. So next up is Tall Thug and Short Gangster, and man, what uninspiring names. Now, these dudes were actually called Dopey and Dumbo on the original episode 1 storyboards, which I believe you can find on maybe Kevin Eastman's website. And word on the street is that either NECA or Nickelodeon decided to change their names to avoid any kind of problems with Disney, you know, which is quite honestly a good idea. Now, don't you think, though, that this guy should have been called Dumbo because he's got sort of this long elephant-like nose? These guys kind of were like never the standouts for me. You know, every time I watched those episodes, I always looked at Scrag and Grunt. But when you actually do look at these guys, they are pretty cool, you know, and memorable. For the longest time, people thought that this dude was a shrew and that this guy mutated into a dog. But recently, a very cool dude from Hungary informed me that sculptor Eric Barnett stated that Dopey here is an elephant mole, which makes sense because he has this much more elongated nose. And Dumbo here is actually a sloth and not a dog, which makes perfect sense because he sort of has these long sloth claw fingers, right? So if I was NECA, I would have, you know, maybe called this dude like Mo, because, I mean, that's close to mole, you know? It's close enough. And this dude, well, to be honest with you, I'd probably still call him something like Ralph, you know, because Ralph is close to Rolf, and I feel like his face, even though he's supposed to be a sloth, he looks pretty close to Rolf the dog. Alright, so both of these guys come packaged in the standard NECA Fred Wolf series 2-packs, you know, with the party wagon design. The window is really nice and big here, so if you're a mint and box collector, you can see most of their bodies and you can see a lot of their weapons. I, for one, am a big fan of the ice hook. I think that's cool. I also think it's very cool that they included a realistic chain. And I don't know if anything's hiding behind these illustrations yet. Down at the bottom here, you have some nice illustrations. You have Dopey here. And over here, you have Dumbo. I kind of feel like that Dumbo illustration is sort of kind of close to like a Ken Mitroni style. I don't know. I don't know who drew these. I'm not sure if... I know Aaron Hazuri has done some of the recent illustrations. I don't know if he's done these ones or not. All right, over on this side, you have a nice shot of Dopey here holding his ice hook. Man, that guy has got a bad attitude. And if we go over to this side, we can see little tiny Dumbo right here holding this little mallet. On the back here, you got a nice big shot of both Dumbo and Dopey, which is also very cool. You know, I honestly don't remember actually seeing his hand in the cartoon, but I feel like they kind of gave him sort of like this, almost like an elephant man hand. And then Dumbo here, you know, he's cool, but like I said, he's got these little tiny hands. Little hands. Down on the bottom here, you have three other recent releases. You got Grunt and Jersey Red, which we're also going to talk about in this review, and then Rex 1 and Mighty Hog and Rhino Man. I have all of those sets, and eventually I plan on reviewing them. I just don't know when I'll get to them. All right, so if we go back to the front here, and you look on the bottom, it says Director Randy Falk, Trevor Zamet, Sculpt and Fabrication Eric Barnett, Kashwara Studios, Paint Jeff Trapp, Mike Puzo, Prototypes Roger Fernandez, Photography Stephen Mazurk, Packaging Travis Hasback. And down on the bottom here, this bottom left-hand corner, I don't remember this being on these 2-packs before, this Nickelodeon Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So maybe they dropped that in there for these review purposes whenever people are talking about the people that made these toys. Now I feel like I have to say this is brought to you by Nickelodeon. I almost said Nintendo. All right. So that's it for these two guys. Now let's move over to the next one. All right. And finally, you have Grunt and Jersey Red. That guy is cool. I don't care what anybody says. He's always been cool looking. I've always liked that dude. I've always loved the lizard form. You know, getting this guy is like a dream come true, you know. And so was Scrag, but this guy too, especially. Like, when I look at him, all I can think of is being a kid and watching the Ninja Turtle cartoon. Jersey Red, you know, she looks okay, but I don't even remember really noticing her when I was watching those cartoons back in the day. Because I don't know, she didn't even mutate. I mean, come on. So in the front here, you have this huge window so you can see Grunt, Jersey Red, you know, just like the other ones. I love how you got Grunt's mutated body down here. I think it's so cool that you can pull off half of his body and put that on there. It almost makes me want to get like a second set of these guys, you know, just to have the human versions and the mutant versions. Down here on the bottom, you have a nice illustration of Grunt. And on the other side, you have an illustration of Jersey Red. On the side, You got a human picture of Grunt without any weapons in his hands. So on the other side, you have a human picture, because, well, I guess you only have human pictures of Jersey Red on this side here. And then on the back, you have both of these characters standing next to each other. Grunt in his mutant form, which is kind of funny looking, I gotta admit. And and Jersey Red here, looking tough, and she's pointing at you like, "Come on, you want to go, little man?" sort of thing. I like her cowboy boots. Down at the bottom here, you have the same exact 3 recent releases, except the Bebop and Rocksteady Gang members are switched out from the other 2-pack. And that's it. Down the bottom, director Randy Falk, Trevor Zammit, Sculpt and Fabrication, Eric Barnett, Kashwara Studios, Paint, Jeff Trapp, Mike Puzo, Prototypes, Roger Fernandez, Photography, Stephen Mazurek, Packaging, Travis Hassback, Nickelodeon Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, 2022 Viacom International. All right, shut up. All right, okay. Now that was a lot of packaging to talk about, and I cannot wait any longer. Now I'm finally going to open up all 3 of these releases, move them around. Hopefully nothing's broken. I cannot wait. I'm super excited, and I will talk to you in a second. So here they are, free from their prisons of cardboard and plastic, ready to get their butts handed to them by the Ninja Turtles and make all of my childhood dreams come true. These guys look fantastic. They all look like the nastiest group of criminals the Turtles ever faced. Like, if you saw these guys walking down the street, you'd pee your pants and jump into a trash can to hide and cry. Even though they're all part of the same gang, each character has their own unique style, and we're going to get into all that. But first, let's discuss these punks in the show. All right, so Bebop and Rocksteady's original gang first appeared in the very first Ninja Turtle episode, Turtle Tracks, during the very first scene. Can you believe that? Seriously, it's about time these dudes got some action figure respect, right? So as the episode begins, the Bebop and Rocksteady gang dismantle a car, and man, are these dudes efficient or what? Next, we overhear one of April's newscasts as she talks about the recent crime wave in New York City as more crimes take place, all right? Now, these guys who are shown to be spray painting the wall, they don't necessarily... They may or may not be part of Bebop and Rocksteady's gang. It's never really addressed, and they never show up again. And, soon after this, April hits us with the heavy stuff. Someone's been hitting scientific equipment companies. What did they steal? Well, 1 parabolic sine wave generator, 2 positron accelerators, 4 reverse flux polarity indicators, and to be honest, I have no idea what any of that is. April then ends her report at Technology Central because she believes that it will be hit next. And what do you know? She gets confronted by Bebop and Rocksteady's gang. Her entire crew, including Vernon, run off like a bunch of sissies and essentially leave her to die, proving that chivalry is indeed dead. Now, during this encounter, Rocksteady is really the only one who's talking, he almost comes off as their leader, to be honest with you. And he threatens April to stop reporting on the recent science robberies. Now, she says okay, and then he moves in to hurt or kill her anyway. I mean, geez. So April throws a camera at him, and she takes off as the punks chase after her. April's able to jump down a sewer grate, and Rocksteady tells Grunt and Scrag to rip out the bars. But, come on, Rocksteady. These dudes aren't nearly jacked enough to be able to do that. So Bebop more sensibly says that, there's a manhole over there. Down in the sewers, April runs for her life, but foolishly, she runs into a wall. Man. And that allows the punks to catch up with her. I mean, what a putz. So Rocksteady moves in for the kill, but Donnie whacks him with his bow. Raph goes after Grunt. Grunt's sword is easily removed by Raph's sai, and then he gets tossed in the air. Scrag pulls out a revolver, but Mikey knocks it out of his hand with one of his chucks, and this causes Scrag to sort of trip backwards into Dumbo, and man, that's just embarrassing, Dopey moves in for the attack with a bat, which is easily sliced in two by Leonardo. And finally, Bebop's chain is stopped by Donatello's mighty bow. Now, one of the Ninja Turtles throws Dopey and Bebop, but I'm unsure which Ninja Turtle that is. And then the villains are left in the cold, dark sewer, piled on top of each other. This is one of the best turtle fights in all the Fred Wolf series. The turtles actually get to use their weapons, which is a plus. And the villains are actually played as, like, malevolent villains, you know, and not silly goofballs. Like, they really appear threatening, even though the turtles deal with them pretty easily. I also really like how the animators tried to keep the turtles in shadow until the big reveal at the end of the fight, you know. Now, the only criminal who didn't really do much of anything during this fight was Dumbo, you know. He just kind of stood behind Scrag, and then he got knocked over as Scrag got knocked back. There's only one other time the gang is seen in this episode, and that's whenever Rocksteady has to report to the Shredder that they were beaten by 4 weirdos. That's it, you know, unfortunately. Next up, episode 2, Enter the Shredder. Now, in this episode, the Shredder cries like a big fat baby to Krang about how the turtles recently beat him, so Krang gives him a great idea of how to destroy the turtles. Fill the sewer with plastic straws. No. No. Jeez. Counter the power of the mutant turtles with even more powerful mutants. So first, the Shredder sends 2 Roadkill Rodney robots to go to the New York City Zoo to steal a rhinoceros and a warthog. You know, maybe he should have sent them to steal a raccoon. Did you know that raccoons are a major threat to turtles? You know, they eat them all the time. It's gross. Next, the Shredder goes to the punk room in the Technodrome and promises that 2 volunteers will be given power beyond their wildest dreams. Power that will give the 2 volunteers the ability to get back at the turtles. All 4 punks in the room run at the opportunity, but only Bebop and Rocksteady get chosen. Now, I should point out that only Bebop, Rocksteady, Scrag, and Grunt are featured in this scene, so Dopey and Dumbo were left out. And this is the only time we see any of the Bebop and Rocksteady gang in this episode. Of course, we all know that Bebop and Rocksteady are featured heavily in this episode. They get mutated into a mutant rhino and a mutant warthog. There's an epic battle in the Technodrome, but despite them being bigger and badder than the heroes, they still lose. Now, in episode 3, A Thing About Rats, none of the Bebop and Rocksteady gang show up at all. Only Bebop and Rocksteady. The next time the punks show up is episode 4, Hot Rodding Teenagers from Dimension X. Deep down in the Technodrome, Krang berates the Shredder for failing to defeat the turtles. He calls the Shredder an addle-brained idiot who can't even beat a bunch of miserable turtles. And he tells him that he won't share any more of his technology until the Shredder builds his new body. Of course, the Shredder doesn't give a shit, though. You know, he just blows Krang off. And he says that Krang's new body is just one of many biomechanical experiments he's conducting. And then he shows Krang a video of Bebop and Rocksteady's gang and says he's still refining his mutations on the punks. He says that this next batch will be infinitely superior to Bebop and Rocksteady. Man, Bebop and Rocksteady get no respect. So this is the only time we see them in this episode, and in my opinion, this really promised a lot, you know, especially when I was a kid and I saw this, but unfortunately, it never really paid off. The final appearance of the Bebop and Rocksteady original crew is in the final episode of Season 1, the episode Shredded and Splintered. Perhaps my favorite episode of all. You know, as this episode begins, the Shredder taps into the Turtles' TV. I think this is the first time he ever did this in the series, and usually the Shredder like hijacks everybody's TV in the city, but here, I believe he's only cutting into their television, so I don't know how he's doing that, but it's cool, you know? So the Shredder shows the guys the Retro Mutagen Ray Generator, a fancy device that can undo mutations, And he says that it's the only device that can restore Splinter back to Hamato Yoshi. And then he demonstrates its power on Scrag. Scrag is turned back into a human from his bat form. The guys are a little worried what the retromutagen ray generator might do if it's used on them, but in the end they decide to go get it in order to cure Master Splinter. You know, I love how the Shredder ends the video call by saying, "If you want it, come get it." So I'm not really going to review this whole episode, because there's only one other scene that shows the Bebop and Rocksteady Gang mutants. But I will say that the Turtles head to the Technodrome, Shredder finally builds Krang's android body, there's an amazing battle in the streets of New York City between the Turtles riding the Turtle Blimp and the giant Krang. Krang gets shrunk back to normal, the retromutagen ray generator gets destroyed, and Shredder and Krang retreat back to the Technodrome, where Krang tries to unleash his rock soldiers into our world. All right, and it's at the beginning of this scene in the Technodrome where we get our final glimpse at the ill-fated Bebop and Rocksteady Gang. Now, you can actually make out Grunt and Dumbo better here, but, what is real shocking, in my opinion, is Scrag is back to being a bat. And this raises some questions. Was the retromutagen ray generator a temporary solution to undoing mutations? Did the Shredder take the time to mutate Scrag back into a bat? Or what could have been an interesting twist is, maybe the retromutagen ray generator was just a holographic projector. Like, you could have had the Turtles get the retromutagen ray generator, and then they use it on Splinter, only to learn that it was all a lie by the Shredder, made up to lure them into some kind of trap or something like that, And unfortunately, they would realize that there is no cure for mutants. I could see that type of story being in the 2012 series, where I think they try to play at your heartstrings a little bit, but that kind of storyline won't really work in the Fred Wolf series because I don't know, none of the characters have much emotional depth, I guess. But whatever, it's a missed opportunity, right? So here's the real question, after this scene, what the heck happened to these guys? It would have been so cool if these guys showed up every now and then in the show. Like, I wouldn't have minded it if, instead of Bebop and Rocksteady showing up in episode after episode, sometimes Shredder could have sent, Scrag and Grunt to do some of his dirty work, Give them good personalities. I think it would have worked out just fine. I know Bebop and Rocksteady are fan favorites, but, it would have been nice for Shredder to diversify a little bit. What do you think happened to these guys? Do you think the Shredder had the group liquidated? Do you think after the Technodrome was stuck in Dimension X, Krang and Bebop and Rocksteady had to eat these guys? I mean, food in Dimension X has gotta suck. Maybe Krang deemed them useless and he had them disintegrated in that disintegrator that he tried to destroy Baxter Stockman. Maybe he did it out of spite, just to get a rise out of the Shredder, because Krang just likes screwing with them. One thing I always kind of wondered, is why are they last seen behind jail bars? If the Shredder was still refining these mutations, are they perhaps more beast than man? Scrag does, only kind of shriek at the Shredder, so maybe he lost some kind of intelligence or something when he got turned into the bat. I don't know. What do you think, Do you have any guesses about what happened to these dudes? So let's move over to Jersey Red. Jersey Red shows up in 2 episodes of the original series with a few other new members of the Bebop and Rocksteady Gang who really didn't show up before this. Will NECA release them as action figures? Hey, if there's steady money to be had, NECA will release everything they possibly can. Jersey Red first appeared in the Season 3 episode, The Gang's All Here. For me, this is a classic Ninja Turtle episode, and I'll always remember it because this is the episode where Mikey turned into a human. I'll always remember how funny Mikey looked and all those silly faces he made as he transformed. But to be honest with you, I didn't really remember Jersey Red growing up or the other Bebop and Rocksteady Gang members. Even after watching this episode multiple times as an adult, they just never really stuck out in my mind. It wasn't until NECA started including like Easter eggs of her on different items that she has, I don't know, made some kind of imprint in my mind. So let's discuss all that she does in this episode. As I said, the main story deals with Bebop and Rocksteady giving the turtles some chocolate chip cookies that contain an anti-mutagen. Donatello doesn't trust this ugly old lady, so he takes the cookies back to his laboratory and tests them. And that's when he learns that they're, cooked with some kind of anti-mutagen. Most of the turtles imagine how cool it would be to be human, but decide against it. And it does seem kind of weird that, if they're taking an anti-mutagen, that they would turn into human. Like, wouldn't they just turn into baby turtles? But Mikey decides that he wants to be human, He wants to go out and party and have fun. He's sick of living in the sewers and not getting any girlfriends. But what he doesn't know is that the anti-mutagen is unstable. And if Donnie and the other guys don't give him an antidote, he's going to explode. So, where does Jersey Red fit in? Well, after Bebop gives the turtles the anti-mutagen chocolate chip cookies, Shredder's like, all right, everybody, success! The turtles are as good as gone. And then he goes down in the Technodrome with Krang, and both of them plan out their next evil scheme to get the Technodrome moving again. Like, seriously, shouldn't you have checked that the Ninja Turtles turned into humans? Like, I know chocolate chip cookies are super tempting and everything, and when I buy a box, I can't stop eating them one after the other. But, not everybody's like me. Leonardo says, the turtles shouldn't eat cookies if they want to stay fighting trim. Like, of course, the square Leonardo wasn't going to risk his super athletic physique by snacking on some goodies. But, yeah, Shredder goes down into the Technodrome, and him and Krang plan their next evil scheme, which is to go rob a cargo ship and steal all of the electronic parts that they need to get the Technodrome moving. Krang and Shredder decide a job this important can't be left up to Bebop and Rocksteady alone, so they decide to get people who look like waterfront types. Krang suggests Bebop and Rocksteady get the gang they once belonged to. Now, this plot point alone would be enough to introduce Bebop and Rocksteady's old gang, but the show decides to go at it from another angle, by having April dress up as a gang member so she can do an expose on big city gangs. I love how she just does her hair and puts on a leather jacket. And like, everybody thinks that she's like a punker. Like, she still has the same pants on, She's still wearing the same boots she wears every single day on the news. All you'd have to do is put on Channel 6 and you would see her in this attire. That'd be like if Batman dressed up as Matches Malone but kept his Batman briefs and his bat boots on. So the first time we see Jersey Red, she's chasing April through the park. It's revealed that the gang are chasing April because she was snooping around their turf. April says that she was checking them out to see if they were tough enough for her to join. The gang laughs and say in order for her to be in the gang, she must take on Jersey Red in a fight to the finish. I love how Jersey Red says, I'm gonna eat you alive. It's just this giant lady attacking poor little April. April takes a beating, of course, but don't worry. Mikey has been following her, and just as Jersey Red is about to trounce April for good, Mikey steps in, grabs her legs, spins her around, and tosses her into the garbage. Neither April or Jersey Red know exactly what happens. Next, she's asked to rob someone, so she chooses her own apartment. April's learning the fear before a crime, the thrill of success, but she never becomes one of them. That's important. So, April gets accepted into the gang just in time for Bebop and Rocksteady to return from the Technodrome with an offer. At first, the gang don't recognize them, and Jersey Red says they can't be Bebop and Rocksteady because they're too good looking. But the moronic mutants smash into a building, and everyone agrees that it must be them because no one else could do something nearly as stupid. Makes sense to me. So the gang, along with April, board the cargo ship. For some reason, Bebop and Rocksteady don't recognize April until Rocksteady gets up close and personal. Seriously, how could it take them this long to know who she is? Like, these guys kidnap her on a daily basis. They should be able to spot her 5 miles away. She's wearing the same pants, for crying out loud. So Mikey tries to save April, but then he turns into a human. All right. Don't worry, though. The other turtles show up before Rocksteady squishes Mikey. During the fights, the turtles take care of Bebop and Rocksteady like they're nothing, like a bunch of wusses. How do they stop Jersey Red? Well, Leo pours soapy water on the bridge, and Jersey Red slips and falls over the side. I thought this chick was supposed to be tough. What a weak-ass way to go down. And that's it for her in this episode, As you probably guessed, the turtles win, and Mikey gets sprayed with the antidote. The end. The final episode to feature Jersey Red is the Season 5 episode, Once Upon a Time Machine. This episode is also one of the only 2 episodes to feature hokum hair. In this episode, Krang discovers a temporal wave distortion that can allow the Shredder to travel into the future. A future without the turtles. Well, they're there. They're just really old now, okay? Maybe here in this future, Shredder will be able to take over the world. He's supposed to go to the year 3000, but they only travel to the year 2036, 13 years from now. Here, the turtles, as I said, still live, but they're old, The turtles aren't the only ones to survive either, because Bebop and Rocksteady find an old gang member, High Five. But now he's an old man, and he looks like Alan Arkin. High Five tells Bebop and Rocksteady that in the future, there isn't any crime because the turtles locked up all the criminals years ago. That's when the fiendish fiends decide to go get their old gang from the past and bring them into the future so they can push around this wimpy society. Kind of like Demolition Man, but I think Demolition Man was after this. In this future, the police don't even carry weapons. Anyway, Hokum witnessed all of this take place, so he goes to get the turtles in the past, while Bebop and Rocksteady get their old gang. In the future, Red and the other villains blast the guys, but the guys survive. In the police station, Jersey Red tells the coppers to get against the walls with their hands up. She says she always wanted to say that. Throughout the episode, the guys see their future selves, and they try to meet up with them, but they get ambushed. Jersey Red attacks with a blaster, but it gets knocked out of her hands. Then she attacks with a crowbar. Right here, it looks like she's wrestling with Raph. Next, she's fighting Donnie with a crowbar until the heroes leave to save the older turtles. Jersey Red is finally defeated when Hokum blasts her with a fire hydrant. The very last time we see her is when the turtles head back to 1991. After this, I assume she got arrested and thrown into the slammer. Overall, Jersey Red had some cool moments and cool things to say, but just like the original gang, I think her group was incredibly underused. In these 2 episodes, I don't know, they're just kind of there. And probably Jersey Red's best moment was when she was fighting April. That really showed how tough she was, and made her look imposing, and I don't know, it was just kind of a cool moment in that episode. So now we're going to move over into cartoon accuracy, and the first thing I want to discuss is something that I have just learned about this year, 35 years later, I'm still learning new things about the old Ninja Turtle cartoon, and it's something that I find very interesting, and dare I say, fascinating. Aeon Flux creator, Peter Chung, did a lot, if not all, of the character designs from season 1 of the Ninja Turtles cartoon. That, to me, just blows my mind because, I never would have put 2 together as a kid to ever imagine that he had worked on this cartoon. But now that I know, I can see his fingerprints all over the characters, like the neutrinos, especially Grunt. Grunt there looks like he could have been in Aeon Flux. And I have to thank my friend Janos from Hungary for pointing that out to me. I had learned last year by watching a Cartoonist Kayfabe interview with him that he had done the animation for the intro of the cartoon, which I thought was amazing. Made sense because if you ever remember the Aeon Flux cartoon or the Liquid Television shorts, it was very fluid, very nice looking animation. So finding out that he did the intro made a lot of sense. And like I said, just recently when I found out about the character designs, that makes a lot of sense too. And if you look on his Instagram page, he's posted a bunch of sketches of the character designs, and he responded a little bit to people, but not as much as I was hoping for. Like he gave a couple of notes of interesting things that happened way back when, like Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman had turned down Krang's android body, his design, but Fred Wolf stuck to their guns and made sure that Peter Chung's design went through. And if you look at that Krang from the Ninja Turtles, you're like, yeah, I could definitely see that being some kind of Peter Chung design. So, like I said, just something very interesting. And now let's talk about Scrag. Scrag here has a pretty simple design. I kind of think he's somewhere in between new wave, goth, and post-punk, instead of straight up punk. But all that stuff, starts to mix together in my head. I don't know the differences, the genres. The only thing I know is he may try to act like he's listening to Nevermind the Bollocks, but we all know that he's falling asleep at night listening to Juju and awaiting his nightly visitor. So he also looks like an extreme stereotypical criminal, Like I could see him in like one of the Police Academy movies, or maybe The Toxic Avenger. He's got the Flock of Seagulls haircut, and I think he looks way better on this action figure than it does in the cartoon, because in the cartoon lots of times it just appears like messy, but here it looks very realized and very practical. I don't know, very sharp. It kind of reminds me even more of Bat Ears. I don't know, even like the coloring, like the black underneath and the purple on top. It just looks very, very cool. He also wears very, very cool mono-lens sunglasses. I guess Cyclops must be his fashion hero or something like that. He wears a black trench coat and a torn navy blue t-shirt. And he also wears jeans and boots. This action figure is based off of like the Vernon or Ace Duck body. There are some differences, but like the arms are the same. I'm sure it has the same torso underneath here, pelvis. The only thing that's really different is the shoes and also like this part of the pants down here. Plus he's got gloves. Speaking of gloves, he wears Mickey Mouse or Bugs Bunny gloves. And sometimes in the cartoon these black lines are missing, but when they're there, he looks even more like a classic cartoon character. The final design piece to talk about is this button right here. And no, that is not an unknown Pokemon. That's actually the logo of the band Einstürzende. Neu Bauten. Sorry, I tried. That is a tough one to pronounce. And again, I have to give thanks to Janos for looking this up for me, because I had no idea what the hell this thing was. When I first looked at it, I almost kind of thought it was like, that Daniel Johnston cover where he drew an alien. I kept on thinking of that, but nope, it's not him. It's this German experimental band. Now, interesting enough, Peter Chung actually talked about this on his Instagram. He wrote that legal told him to change the button. And he said that he did, but they still kept the design in the cartoon. In fact, he didn't even know that they kept it, because I guess he never watched the episodes of the cartoon after it came out. I don't know. He doesn't seem too enthusiastic about the Ninja Turtles if you ever listen to him talk about it. But, it's just kind of cool that this obscure music reference is now on this action figure. And if you were curious, Neu Bauten music is kind of like early industrial music. I would say it's not as digestible as like, I don't know, Ministry or The Killing Joke, and it's not as heavy as like Godflesh or Fear Factory. It just kind of seems to be doing its own thing. One of the most interesting things about it is the percussion is made out of like homemade objects. I think that's actually pretty neat. It makes it sound even more machine-like, I guess, or like you're in the factory. Will I listen to them in the future? Probably not, you know. I prefer other post-punk bands like Susie and the Banshees, or I don't know, I guess like New Order and stuff like that. Like, is that all the same? And you know, if I was gonna listen to industrial, I listen to Fear Factory because they're my favorite industrial, probably almost favorite metal band. You know, it's a constant fight in my head between them and Sepultura. All right, so let's move on. If you have Ace Duck or Vernon, you should be familiar with his articulation, but just in case you don't, I'll cover it. There's a ball joint at the base of the head and also at the base of the neck, so you can look down pretty far. You can also look up pretty good. You can, you know, spin both the neck and the head around in a 360. It's a little tricky getting that head to move because as soon as you start to turn the head, the neck moves. There is, I believe, upper torso articulation in here, but because of the t-shirt, it's so thick, it's pretty much unusable. Maybe there isn't. I don't know. There might not be anything in there. I could never tell. But what I do know is that there is a waist cut right here, but because of the t-shirt, it's pretty difficult to get that to move. The shoulders here swivel all the way around, and there's also a hinge, so you can put the arms up that high. The elbow joints are double jointed, and you know, I always bend my double joints like to here because I don't like using the extra joint there because it looks kind of weird, like he's got sausage arms or something like that. There's just something funny about this Mickey Mouse glove. Just makes me laugh. The forearm swivels right here, and the hand can swivel, and there's a hinge there on the hand or the wrist. The joint was painted with white paints, and that white paint is like flaking off. But luckily, the peg in there is also white. You know, some of the old NECA toys had different colored pegs, and as soon as you started to move them, you'd have this weird color right there that wouldn't fit with the rest of the hand, but luckily it's white too. He has the good NECA hips, which are ball jointed. The t-shirt gets in the way a little bit from putting the leg up pretty high, but you can almost get him to do a split, and you can rotate the legs. He's got double jointed knees, which bend pretty good. And then the ankles here have a hinge. There's an ankle rocker. And I don't know if... Oh, look at that. He also has a boot cut. So all that's good. And now it is time to turn this guy into a bat, which I'm pretty excited about because I haven't turned him to a bat yet. And it is September of 2023. So... feel bad for me. Hopefully this will be an easy process. It looks here like the whole neck and the head come out, which makes the most sense, right? All right, so that was easy enough. You know, attaching extra heads are always the worst. Because as soon as you try to put the neck down here on this ball just gets pushed to the side, and then you got to try to line it or straighten it out, and then try to push the head back on it, and it'll move again. All right, so I got that. And now it is time to remove the forearms. Easy. Well, all right, there you go. That looks amazing. Looks very cool, you know. I'm glad to finally have this. Such a cool looking bat face. You know, as I said, the hair looks like bat ears, and it just looks like his hair had morphed into these ears. So that's pretty cool. You know, seriously, it's amazing that this guy exists. You know, like, I've been waiting for this for 35 years. Which sounds insane. The only bummer is that this guy was a Lootcrate exclusive. Like, everybody should have had the chance to get this guy. You know, he is a must-have for any fan of that old Ninja Turtle cartoon. So this head looks great, and it is very much on model. Originally, NECA advertised a different head. It was a good head, but obviously it wasn't as on model as this brand new head, you know. And it's nice to know that NECA decided to make him as good as possible, you know. It seems nice that they're trying to please the fans. By adding these new body parts, doesn't change the articulation at all. You still have the same wrist articulation and the same head and neck articulation. But he can look up, he can look down, he can look side to side and all around. Very, very cool. Next up, let's talk about Dopey. Dopey looks like an old biker. He wears a cool leather jacket with some patches on the shoulder. He wears the same exact biker hat that Marlon Brando wore in The Wild One. And on the bottom, he just wears jeans and boots. I don't know. Luckily, even though his screen time is very limited, you do kind of see his whole body. So at least you can see his boots and his pants and all that kind of stuff in the cartoon. This dude makes me laugh, though, because there's something about his face that reminds me of two people, right? For some reason, I see David Gahan, I think that's how you pronounce it, from Depeche Mode. And, of course, I don't know, because of that schnoz, I see Ringo Starr. I guess I shouldn't laugh. I'll just act naturally. Now, he does actually have eyes underneath that hat. You can see his pupils are painted. So that's cool. In the cartoon, you only get to see, like, his eyeballs during the one scene where Leonardo chops his weapon in half. Now, here would be a good time to mention that you can actually look at the storyboards from the beginning of this episode on Kevin Eastman's website. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And that's where you can read Dopey's name and also Dumbo's names. But, you know, I kind of feel like the names should be switched here, because this guy should be Dumbo, because he turns into, like, the elephant. Or originally I think people thought he was supposed to be like a shrew or something like that, but he is definitely some kind of mutant elephant. But articulation, he only has a ball-jointed head. Nothing in the neck right here. The shoulders have a hinge, and they can swivel around, but the leather jacket starts to get in the way a little bit. You know, and you don't want to crack that vinyl. He's got double jointed elbows. He's got a swivel on wrist and some hinges right there. Feels like there's something in the upper torso here, but the only thing you're probably going to use is the waist cut. I mean, he can't really look over too far or look up. And if you do kind of move him around, you can see his, look at that, you can see his waist in there. This is a skinny guy. The hip joints are the regular NECA ball joints, which is nice. The leg moves up pretty high. Moves to the sides pretty good. They rotate. You have double jointed knees. There is a boot cut. And the ankle has a hinge, and it also has an ankle rocker. All right, so let's mutate this guy. Pop. Getting the head on there wasn't so bad. This is one ugly dude. He is one ugly dude. Next up, we got to change the hand, and I guess you remove it from the bottom of the lower joint here. Ooh, gotta be careful there. Doesn't want to go in. There we go. All right. So now he has this very gigantic hand and one regular hand. And, you know, that is a very direct reference to the Elephant Man, Joseph Merrick. You could even see that the hand in that picture looks just like this hand. And I'm curious because, you know, Peter Chung never released the character designs of this guy. You know, was that the intention? Did he originally have that? Because if you look at him in the cartoon, there is never a time when you actually get to see anything other than his face, which is such a bummer, you know? Did he have that hand like that? Or was that just kind of like an inside joke that the sculptor decided to include on here? Just like with Scrag, adding these mutant body parts doesn't really change much with the articulation. It does make this hand like so much bigger than the other one. But yeah, this has got a hinge, still swivels. How's it going? Up next is Dumbo. And I'll be honest with you, I don't really have much to say about Dumbo. I barely even noticed him in the cartoon because he's just kind of like the little guy who, I don't know, fills in the space, you know? He's there to offer, I guess, diversity or variation with the scale of the gang. I don't know, he's just a very stereotypical, short, stocky, bald, dim-witted man. He's got a snaggletooth in his mouth, which is pretty funny. I will say that the dent in his head, you know, makes it look like he got hit with something, you know, maybe like a frying pan. I don't know. I imagine this guy would like try to act tough, but he'd be like, yeah, and now we're gonna come and kick your asses. It's like or maybe he might even be the toughest of them all. He'd be the, you know, I'm the bad guy. I'm the leader of this joint kind of thing. I don't know. But he wears like I guess he's wearing a gray tank top because you have this jacket on top. You would think that there'd be like some kind of cool punk symbol on the back. Then he just has jeans and black shoes and some silver wristbands. I don't know. There's not really much to his design at all. He doesn't really capture a certain musical look or I don't know, any kind of regular punk look or something. I mean, NECA gave him the name Short Gangster. I mean, that's just kind of what he's got, you know. There's not much to really say about him. And yeah, as I said, I think he has either him or Dopey have like the shortest amount of screen time, which is, you know, barely anything. When it comes to articulation, this guy has a ball joint in the neck here. The shoulders rotate around. You have a hinge there. He's got single jointed elbows, which hinge, and they also swivel. Then you have a swivel at the wrist, and that also hinges. There is nothing in the upper torso. Seems like he's got a ball jointed waist. Yeah, it's a ball. And he has the usual NECA hips, which is the nice ball jointed hips, where you can rotate forward, up, and it could rotate in a 360. Well, not a 360 because it gets stopped by the rod in there. The knees have a hinge and a swivel. And unfortunately, I cannot get this one knee to move. I just cannot get it to budge at all. Every time I try to rotate it, I just move the hip joint. And even if I just try to hold it in place as best as I can, it just won't move at all. The ankle joints here have a hinge and ankle rockers. And I believe he does not have... No, it's all one piece. He does not have a boot cut like the other dudes. I mean, and that is all for him. You know, there is not much to say about this short little guy. So now I'm going to mutate him. And here is where... I need to get some tissues because I'm about ready to cry, all right? They gave me 2 mutated arms with the same bicep and shoulder piece. You see that? It's his right arm. This should not be on this arm, you know. I could try to do this for now, but I contacted NECA, so I'll see if they write anything back to me. And if not, I'm going to order a set from Target, and then I will keep the good arm and return the crap stuff to them. I don't know, it's such a bummer though. You know, this is the problem with me waiting too long to review my toys, because, you know, I just found out about this, and not that long ago I found out about my Hamato Yoshi action figure after waiting so long to open him up. He has 2 right feet. Now that drives me even more nuts, because, you know, this guy is nowhere near as easy to come by as these gang members. So pop off the arms, pop off the head, put this in here for now. But yeah, I mean, it's stupid, but it'll have to do for now. Pop that in there and pop the head in on top. Now here's you know, this is like the only action figure out of these gang members that I think people had a problem with, because like, if you look at him from the top, he looks okay, but as soon as you start moving him around, you can see his human neck in there. I mean, that is very noticeable down there. That's why you'd have to buy like 2 of this guy and paint this color brown. But I mean, other than that neck, I mean, he looks fine. I love the expression on his face. But yeah, that is kind of jarring and unusual. Just like the other figures, he still has the same articulation, you know. Shoulder, same single jointed elbows. The hand didn't, you know, it has a hinge in there. It's just very small. And these fingers, these sloth fingers, are very sharp. So yeah, he's cool looking, but I don't know. He's got some problems. He's the only one, like I said, I think isn't as good as the other ones. I also kind of think his face looks like Chewbacca. A flattened Chewbacca. Next up is Grunt, and as I've said before, he is a favorite of mine. You know, I always thought he had a cool look. Out of all these guys, I feel like he looks the most dangerous. You know, he looks as though he could have been a villain in like The Road Warrior or Mad Max or something like that. He also looks like he could have, you know, like he's a character you would see in like one of your favorite 80s beat 'em up games or 90s beat 'em up games. Like he could have been in the Mad Gear Gang or whatever gang you're fighting in Streets of Rage. And also because of like the harness and some of the other details of his suit, he looks the most Peter Chung out of any of these early Bebop and Rocksteady Gang members. You know, he looks like he could have been in Aeon Flux with this getup that he has on. Grunt has a blonde mohawk and some cool shades that he wears at night in the cartoon. If you look underneath the sunglasses, he does have eyes, but they didn't paint the pupils, so he looks a little freaky. He's got this harness around his chest, and in the first episode, that little gold medallion or whatever that is in the middle there, that is always like a solid circle, you know, or I think it's like a circle within a circle. It's not until the next episode, Enter the Shredder, that actually has that detail on the front, and also there is that detail on the back. He's got this like gold band around his bicep. He also has like these, they're not spikes, what do you call these? These mini spikes, wristbands. He's got this belt with these pouches on it, And in one of the scenes, or one of the shots in the episode, those pouches are two different colors. But it doesn't seem like that's what they're supposed to be, because in most of them they are the same. And then he wears some knee pads that you can see whenever he gets thrown by the Ninja Turtles. And he's just got like these skin tight black leather pants and boots on the bottom. Grunt really does get a decent amount of screen time. Maybe even more so than Scrag, I think. It seems like the main three that they show are Bebop, Rocksteady, and Grunt. So this action figure just is a long time coming. You know, this guy was disrespected back in the day, and it's about time that, you know, they finally put him out. Up next, articulation. And, you know, it is interesting how, like, I don't know, it seems like NECA is moving more and more into single-jointed elbows, but every now and then you'll get like a figure who's sort of built off an older design, so you'll still get those double-jointed elbows, but as I said, it seems like going forward they're mostly focusing on single-jointed elbows, which I'm okay with. The head here has a ball joint at the base of the head. The shoulders rotate around, and they have a hinge. You have a swivel and a hinge at the single-jointed elbow. The wrist swivels, and it has a hinge too. You actually have upper torso articulation that you can use with this guy, because he doesn't have one of those like clothing overlays. So you can look down, look up. It's very striking. He's got a waist cut. And then you have the NECA hips. You can rotate upward, outward. Because of the, I guess because of the way he is built, he might have the best range with his hip joints. You know, because everybody else has like, I don't know, jean vinyl over the joint there. He's got very skin tight pants, so you can move this thing without it being hindered at all. You have double jointed knees. Like he's flying through the air at somebody. You have a boot cut, and then the ankle has a hinge and an ankle rocker. And that's all for this dude. You know, pretty good range of motion. Oh my gosh, I almost broke his glasses. Oh my gosh, I removed it by accident. Shit. It's okay. I put it back in. Yeah, be careful. I thought maybe they were glued in place. I don't know if maybe I broke the glue or what, but there's like a tab on the side of the glasses to just kind of stick into the side of his head. So let's mutate this guy. Now this guy, all you gotta do is remove his upper body and replace it with the lizard upper body. Ooh. Easy enough so far. Now, I'll admit, like, whenever you see Grunt in the cartoon, I never imagined him to be as hunched over as this guy. I mean, this guy is really hunched over. He really loses a lot of height. But it's still cool looking. It's just kind of funny to me to look at him like this. But as I said, this is very, very cool looking. I like this a lot, actually. It'll be pretty neat to start posing him like this with the Ninja Turtles. So with the articulation now, you know, you got the same arm set up, of course. The only difference is you don't have, you know, a regular neck and head back here. The head just kind of rotates around. So you can kind of, or the face rotates around. You don't have a lot of range with it, but at least offers some variation. You can try to get him to look different directions. There's like a big scrape right here. So yeah, in the cartoon, you only get to see this guy twice. Sort of get him in a pose like this, where he's looking. You could look at him from the side. You can see that here. And then the other time, he's like stuck behind the jail bars. And here he is there. So I don't know. Like I kind of feel like he would have been taller or something like that. Like this design is just a little unexpected, but I don't feel bad about it. I still think it looks cool. I don't know. Very, very neat. Him and Scrag are definitely my favorites of the bunch. See, my problem is that, like, when you're thinking of, like, you know, cool animals, you're thinking like bats and lizards or snakes or something like that. You're not thinking like sloths. Like, I think sloths are dangerous, but I don't know. And then poor Dopey here, you know, he doesn't even look like a fully mutated elephant or an elephant mole or whatever he's supposed to be. He just looks like he got deformed the worst out of all of them. Like, these guys still look like, you know, their animal forms. Like Bebop and Rocksteady, they still have the elegance of a rhinoceros and a warthog, you know? It might be scary to see them, but you're still thinking, oh, cool, I like that animal. You look at Dopey and you're just like, oh my god. Get away from me, man. Get away! Finally, we have Jersey Red, who doesn't mutate, but, you know, she's still cool, right? You know what? Here's a question for you. If Jersey Red did mutate, what would you want her to mutate into? I kind of think with that big poofy hair, maybe she'd turn into something like a hawk. I don't know. I just didn't want to say anything mean like a hippo. Jersey Red is your stereotypical large female brute character. If she wasn't called Jersey Red, she'd probably be, I don't know, Big Bertha, Large Marge, or Big Valerie. But in that case, she'd probably have to thump you. I actually think that this figure is great, and it perfectly captures the look and exaggerated proportions of her body. I think out of her 2 episodes, I prefer her design in The Gang's All Here. You know, obviously nothing changes cosmetically, but I just think the animators did a better job balancing her upper body and hips with her tiny little lower legs. In the episode Once Upon a Time Machine, I don't know, she loses some of that cool exaggeration. I think her cartoony face is one of the best looking faces in this whole series, you know? It just has so much character and life. Like, I love the expression with the one raised eyebrow. Like, she really looks like she's ready to mess you up. I think the sculptor did a great job translating her messy hair into a fully formed design. You know, this looks pretty good. It's nice and poofy. I could totally see some punker chick riding around on a motorcycle like with this haircut. She wears red lipstick, and both of her ears have a lot of piercings. I guess it's 3 apiece. But yeah, I think the face looks pretty good. Up top, she wears a crop top with studs along the edges, and I guess the straps. Nothing on the back. On her wrists, she wears, I don't know, just these like black wristbands that have straps on them. Nothing too special. And then just down at the bottom, she wears jeans and cowboy boots, which, you know, really make her look like a biker chick. The only other piece of detail on her body is in her one back pocket, she always has a rag. Maybe that's to clean the blood off of her knuckles after she pounds in your face. Her articulation is pretty decent, and she has some pretty decent range. Her head has a ball joint in the base of the head. You look up and look down. You can spin it all the way around. You and cock it from side to side to really give her some attitude as she's moving into, I don't know, smack April around. Her shoulders rotate all the way around, plus they're hinged. I think these might be the same shoulders as, yeah, they are. They're the same shoulders as Dumbo. The forearms here, or the elbow joints, has a swivel and a hinge. The wrists have a swivel and a hinge, of course. And, you know, the upper torso here has like a ball joint in there. And I think it's good because, you know, sometimes you get action figures and they have like a joint in here. And as soon as you start to move them up, it starts to like separate, or you can see the joint inside. But you can really bend her upper torso back. And look at that. It's nice and clean there. You don't see anything. Same thing within the back here. You could rotate that around. So that is like a really, really good upper torso, I don't know, rib cut or whatever you want to call it. Like some of the Silverhawks, I think, their like upper torso articulation right there are like, they're like useless, completely useless. You could barely turn them. They can't really look up or down or anything like that. But, you know, this works really well. And she's got a waist cut. Now she's got like a very, you know, she's got a piece of vinyl for the pelvis here, which kind of hinders the leg movement a little bit. She's got the regular NECA ball jointed hips, but because she's got such a large piece of vinyl here, yeah, you're not going to be putting her in many like exaggerated running poses. But her, she's got single jointed knees that have hinges and they can swivel around. Plus she has boot cuts at the cowboy boot here. And then the ankle is just a hinge and ankle rockers. So pretty decent, you know. Even though I had no real affinity for Jersey Red, I think this is a fine action figure. The original Bebop and Rocksteady Gang, plus Jersey Red, are finally here to cause a ruckus on your Ninja Turtle shelf. These guys and gal look extraordinary. You know, they're very cartoon accurate, and they look dangerous, either as a armed punk or a mutated monster. Scrag's mutated form is probably the best of all, in my opinion. You know, I love it. He really captures the cartoon appearance. I think an articulated mouth would have went a long way, but, you know, I understand why they didn't do it, you know. It could have looked a little weird and wonky. His articulation is good, but his vinyl shirt and his vinyl trench coat hinder the movements. It's kind of hard to make him look as though he's swinging that sledgehammer, because you can only rotate his arms so far in front of him. Dopey, or Tall Thug, is great. His articulation is a little hindered by that, you know, vinyl jacket that he wears. You know, just like Scrag, his shoulder rotation is just a little stiff. I absolutely love both his human and mutated faces. His human face just has a lot of personality, and his mutated face just crosses into, like, unnerving, you know? Not many Ninja Turtle cartoon figures get to be as creepy as this, like, I don't know, sloppily mutated elephant. I don't know. He got the short end of the stick, you know? Everybody else has a cool look, and he's just freaky. Dumbo, or Short Gangster, or was it Small Gangster? I don't remember. He's all right, you know? He fills in a space. He neither excites nor disappoints me. I guess, you know what? You got that human neck in there. That's a big bummer. I feel like he should have been like Scrag, you know, like both heads should have had their own neck. Also, you know, I guess it was a problem that his one arm, they gave me the wrong shoulder piece. You know, that sucks. Grunt is pretty amazing. Both his human and mutant forms just succeed, you know. I think he has the best articulation out of all of them because he doesn't wear a shirt, you know. That vinyl top does not get in the way. Unfortunately, his mutated form only has one set of hands, you know, which kind of stinks, so he can't hold any weapons. He's just going to be stuck scratching your Ninja Turtles all the time, or, you know, standing spookily like, I'm going to get you. But I will say, seeing this dude in person just makes me wish that you could have seen more and more of him in the cartoon. Him and Scrag, man, we sure missed out on some cool stories. With Jersey Red, I like her a lot. I actually like her more than I thought I would, all right? Because at first, you know, I was indifferent. But now, I'm a fan, you know. I think she's sculpted with so much character and power. I think she looks great. My only issues with her is her high heels, because high heels are always a pain in the ass with toys and your figures fall over all the time. In fact, I had to use like a little stand to plug into the bottom of her high heel because she was just falling over all the time when I was trying to get her into any kind of movement pose. Also, all that extra vinyl on her pelvis really hinder her hip movements. You know, it can be kind of hard to get her in a good punching stance because the legs just cannot bend to where you want them to be. Other than that, though, I love the face. The upper torso articulation works really well and is very nice and clean. The last thing that I think is a problem is her armpits. As I've been moving her arm up and down, it's been scraping the black tube top. So now it kind of looks like she doesn't shave her pits. And that is it. Now let's talk about accessories. Up first, you have Scrag's handgun. And I just wanted to show this real quick because this is going to break. See how you have like this finger guard or whatever this is supposed to be where you put your finger when you're going to shoot the trigger? He has such a sturdy grip that when I tried to put this into his hand, it bent this piece and broke it off the top there. And, you know, it's just going to come off as I keep on trying to put it into his hand, unfortunately. So, like I said, you can put it in the hand, but it takes a lot of work. Yeah, see that I broke it when I was trying to put it in there, which is such a bummer. I guess that's still pretty decent, even though that piece is broken off now. Whatever. Scrag uses the handgun when the punks attack April in the sewers. Or more specifically, he pulls it out as the turtles try to rescue her, and Mikey knocks it out of his hand with a nunchuck. Up next is Scrag's sledgehammer. Scrag can hold this with his two gripping hands, which is great. You know, you have this trigger finger here, but you can still get it to hold the sledgehammer. I don't know, I usually use it as the bottom hand, as the other one is more of the sturdy hand, I guess. You know, NECA went above and beyond with this one because they made a brand new sledgehammer sculpt instead of giving you the same one that they gave with Casey Jones. And this one looks way better, to be honest with you. Scrag uses the sledgehammer twice in the cartoon. First, he uses it during the car dismemberment scene. Look at the size of that thing compared to Dumbo's little mallet. And Scrag also uses the sledgehammer during the first attack on April, you know, above ground. But when they enter the sewers, it disappears. I already discussed his mutation pieces and explained how I thought they were very cartoon accurate. I think his mutated head is way better than Dumbo's because you actually have the neck, so you don't have that human neck underneath the bat head. That's great. And also the hands on this are good because he never grows claws when he becomes a bat, you can actually switch out these hands with those hands. So even when you turn him into a bat, you can have him hold a weapon, or I don't know, if he's a human, you can make it look like he's trying to grab somebody. So that's all great. Now we're going to move on to Dopey, and first up you have his ice hook. Now I think the ice hook is a great weapon. He only uses it during the first scene whenever him and the other punks pull apart that car. I don't know how you're going to use an ice hook to dismantle a car. I mean, I don't know. Seems a little impractical. He probably should have used it during the April attack scenes, but then he would have looked kind of like a slasher villain or something with this cool ice hook. This is like I said, it's a cool weapon. It makes him look pretty tough, and he actually comes with a special hand where there is a gap between the fingers, so he can use it like a claw, like so. Arr. Now, in the cartoon, when he does use the hook, he actually grabs it with two hands and pulls on it. Next up is Dopey's wooden bat, this little tiny mini bat. It's the kind you would get at like a special bat day at a baseball game, you know. The cool thing about it is he's got 2 gripping hands other than that ice hook hand. So he can club people, and then he can grab them and haul out their bodies. You know, it's a nice little bat, but it does look different from how it appears in the cartoon. He uses the bat during the attack on April in the sewers, and Leonardo cuts that bat in half. In the cartoon, it looks like it's a little dirty or something, like there's a little bit of gunk on it. Now, there are some other bats being used during these scenes, but not this bat, because during the topside attack on April, Bebop uses a bat. But that bat was included in the premonition of a pre-mutation 4-pack, specifically for Bebop. We've already discussed the mutated bits. As I've said before, I love the head. I think it looks great. I almost think that maybe it doesn't match the rest of the toys, though, because it is so weird. But that's how it appears in the cartoon. You know, it's kind of strange and I don't know. It's not as cartoony as the other guys in this Elephant Man hand. And finally, Dopey has just a few extra hands. As I said before, you have this special ice hook hand, but then you also have a set of normal gripping hands, this one and that one, and then he also has a set of fists, so he can get into some barroom brawls. Moving on, up next we get to talk about Dumbo's accessories, and up first we're going to talk about the wooden mallets. Now, you know, I guess this looks a little dangerous, but the only scene that Dumbo uses this is in the scene where they pull apart the car, and you just look at that little wooden mallet in his hand, and you're like, what the hell is he supposed to do with that? To do any kind of damage to that car, or to try to, you know, pull it apart? To me, it just doesn't make any sense. They should have given him like a drill or something like that, or like maybe like some kind of saw. Like, how the hell? I don't know. I don't even understand how they're pulling apart that car. Like, I feel like maybe they should all have like crowbars or something. So Dumbo can hold this mallet just fine. I kind of feel like he should be going after some kind of lobster guy. Give me some food. Up next is the chain. And this is very nice because it's made out of actual chain. Nice metal chain right here. You can put it in his hand and have him hold it, but it can be a little tricky trying to get it in there because he's got a pretty tight grip. And you kind of just have to figure out how to squeeze the links between the fingers. But he can hold it. See, I got him to hold this thing just fine. Now, Dumbo uses the chain during the initial attack on April on the streets. But once you get into the sewers, it's hard to tell what weapon he has. Like, you really can't see anything, to be honest with you. And he's only in that scene for like a short period of time. However, in the sewers, Bebop also uses a chain. And that chain is knocked out of his hands by Donatello's bow. Now, the weird thing about that, in my opinion, is they've already shown you the bow. As Rocksteady is moving forward toward April, Donatello's bow, like, knocks Rocksteady away. Then, when they show him hit the chain, they put the bow in shadow. Why would you do that? You already revealed what it was. I've already discussed his mutated body parts. I think the actual detail on them is fine, and they would look good. You know, if I had all the right parts to the arm. This figure would just be so much better if they would have built him like Scrag and made the neck removable instead of making that a part of the torso. That's the big downfall here, you know. It makes him a little underwhelming. But I love the face, like his sloth face. I think that's pretty funny looking. And finally, Dumbo has 2 sets of hands. He has a set of gripping hands. And he also has 1 set of fists. And that is all. So now we're going to move over to the Grunt and Jersey Red 2-pack. And first up, we're going to talk about Grunt's sword. Now, this is a pretty nifty sword. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't check all the past swords we've gotten so far. So I don't know if this is a unique sculpt. But it looks like what I would expect it to look like from the screenshots I have of the cartoon. The only thing I would say is, in the screenshots I have, I can't see the handle in any of them. So I don't know if they were just kind of guessing what it would look like here. Grunt uses this sword during the attack on April. He's holding it when they're up on the street, and then when they're down in the sewers, he tries to swing it at the Ninja Turtles, and Raphael uses his sai to knock it out of his hands. Now, if you were curious, in the very first scene, whenever the punks pull apart the car, he's using what I think is a pipe. But Grunt here, he can hold this sword just fine. Goes in his gripping hand pretty nicely. Grunt did not have any other weapons. The only thing he came with other than the sword is his cool mutated body. And, you know, it's very nice. Creates a very nice and clean mutation with the bottom half of his body. You know, it's not weird like Dumbo. But yeah, he looks good. You know, I was thinking, the more I look at this Grunt, I see more and more like Egon Spengler for some reason. Real Ghostbusters Egon Spengler, if he had a mohawk. And now we get to talk about Grunt's final accessories. And this is where a little bit of disappointment comes in, all right? Because I didn't realize this until just looking at them right now. But like, he has 3 sets of hands, right? He's got 2 regular human gripping hands, and he has a set of fists, which is great and everything. But then you have an extra set of gripping hands, and you're like, well, why would he come with the same gripping hands? And then you notice, wait a minute, these are not the same gripping hands. These ones actually have sharp and pointy nails. So I think that NECA, you know, screwed up here. These were supposed to be painted his lizard green and, you know, whitish nail color. Like, these should have been gripping hands for his mutated form, and that would have been perfect. You know, I think I said earlier that I thought he should have had gripping hands included with his mutant form. So, I don't know, this is such a bummer that somebody messed up somewhere at the factory, I guess. Next, let's talk about Jersey Red's blaster. This is a very cool looking gun, and it's very unique to the episode it appears in. It appears in Once Upon a Time Machine. If you remember, in the first episode, the gang's all here. Jersey Red fights with her fists, and that's it. But this is a very cool looking blaster or laser gun or whatever this is supposed to be. If it's supposed to be some kind of stun rifle or stun gun. Getting reference of this gun is a little tricky because it's not shown very often, and lots of times it's very small in the scene, and it can change a little bit, all right? I feel like this is one of the clearest pictures of this weapon, and I think it looks pretty similar to that. And then here's like a back of it where you could see it from this angle. And there you go. Yeah, it's, I don't know. Like I said, you just don't see it much. And then eventually the Ninja Turtles kick it out of her hands, and she never uses it again. But she comes with a trigger finger. And you can fit this blaster in her hand very easily. I guess it kind of angles down a little bit, though. The way that her grip is. It's one of those things where you have to position her hand higher up so that you get like a nice straight blast. But yeah, cool weapon. I don't know if I would necessarily pose her or display her with this, just because I feel like she's a bruiser. You know, she's going to be somebody who's going to be pounding dudes' faces in. You know, the more I look at this design, the more I do like it, though. Like, I love how this red piece here that goes between this gray piece right here, it's not connected. There's like this gap here inside. I don't know, it just makes it look very cool. So now we're going to talk about her hands, and then we're going to talk about the final item, because I don't believe the final item is supposed to be for her. You know, I think that maybe they packaged it as her accessory, but I don't think it belongs to her at all. All right, so she's got a set of fists, which is great. She actually has the most hands out of all these figures. She got a set of fists. She has one trigger finger hand, which is great. Plus, she also has these open hands, which look, I think, I'd have to look, but I kind of feel like these are the same exact hands that came with Vernon Thompson. I feel like he had these sort of gripping hands. But so you have this final gripping hand, and it's made to hold a much larger object, which is this. Now, when I first saw this thing, I thought, oh, well, that's supposed to be like a can of spray paint, you know, because in the first episode of the cartoon, Turtle Tracks, you got Punk's spray painting, so that's what I thought it would be. But Jersey Red never spray paints anything, you know, in either of her cartoon appearances. And the more I looked at it, the more I realized it reminded me of something else. I'm pretty sure this is meant to be the antidote from The Gang's All Here, you know, the anti-mutagen antidote that Donatello has to spray Michelangelo with to turn him back into a turtle. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, Gary, there's like a label on that can, you know, like there's a green shape and a yellow shape, right? Well, check out this shot right here, all right? I don't know. To me, I just think that this is what that is supposed to be. So can you get your Donatello to hold this? Well, you're going to have to sacrifice a hand, all right? You're going to have to stretch that grip out as far as possible. And if you try to leave it in there for very long, you know, that hand is going to be only useful for larger objects like this. But yeah, you can get him to hold this thing. So here's all of Bebop and Rocksteady's gang standing next to, I don't know, a decent selection of this NECA Fred Wolf series. Here, now you can see their mutated forms standing next to all of these action figures as well. Man, these action figures look amazing. And you know, it may be a bummer that Scrag and Grunt never showed up in the cartoon after the first season, and we never got action figures of them, but at least we did get a mutant bat and a mutant lizard in the old toy series with Wingnut and Mondo Gecko. And, you know, they did make some cartoon appearances, which was pretty nice. And we also got new action figures of them with the NECA Fred Wolf toys. So I guess I should be happy about that. But, you know, there was no sloth mutant back in the day. And I guess the closest thing to Dopey is maybe Dr. L, but, you know, he never was in the show. Here they are next to some of NECA's Mirage Ninja Turtles, plus a last Ronin action figure. Do they fit in with any of these toys? Not at all, but I figured, what the hell, I might as well show them. Here's the Punks next to some of Super 7's Ultimates. You know, I've always said this, and I'll continue to say it, especially now that it's been said that Playmates has sort of gotten involved and Super 7 can't make super accurate Ultimates anymore based on the original toys. What Super 7 should do is take characters from the different comic books like Adventures or even in some of the Ninja Turtle magazines, or, you know, these characters right here, and make them in the Playmates style. You know, make them, like, make Scrag here a giant like Bebop, only have, like, you know, one of his hands is like a claw ripping through the glove. You know, what the other side of his leg should be like turning into a bat leg or something like that with a bat foot. Maybe give him like some kind of wings or something like that. Like, take these characters and really just get imaginative and gross, like the original Ninja Turtle toys could be sometimes. Make them a little creepy. And, you know, I would buy that shit all day, and I would tell everybody to buy those toys because, I don't know, I would love that. I would love to have like a grunt here, you know, larger with some scales all sculpted onto him, nasty looking face. Like, that would be amazing. That's what they should do. Here they are next to some of Playmates' Ninja Turtle classic action figures. I had never rebought Rocksteady again after selling him, so unfortunately all I have is Bebop to show. And just for the hell of it, here we can see them next to some of the old Playmates action figures. And we can imagine just how cool it would have been to have these punks in the same scale. Actually, Dumbo is like short enough that he could go with that toy line. Like, he's the same exact height as the other guys. He's got simple articulation. I could just imagine Raphael kicking him in the face. Oh, I took all of them out. See, Raphael, he's the strongest one out of all of them. And that's it. I'm finally done. I've been working on this review for the past 6 months, off and on, of course. But, every time I'd move a little forward with this one, I would get sidetracked with some other NECA review and I would have to stop. So finally, it's finished. And perfect timing because yesterday was the 3-year anniversary of me beginning to do Raz Rentals reviews. Before that, I just had a couple other videos on here. So what's up next? Well, I have a few more of these Fred Wolf series 2-packs to finish. I did start at Bugman and Electro Zapper 1. I did start at the Premonition of a Premutation 1, but to be honest with you, these reviews take a long time. So I might just do like a couple of easier reviews, like maybe try to do some Playmates stuff, because I've been working nonstop on Fred Wolf reviews. So I would kind of like to maybe do like, I don't know, like the Movie Star Ninja Turtles or the, what the hell do you call it? The Flush-O-Matic. There's a few things that people have asked me to do over the past 3 years, and I figured I should probably try to do some of those now. So thanks for watching, and like I said, the Fred Wolf series reviews will continue, as well as I started this really huge Mirage Jim Lawson review that like, I don't know, I just get way too ahead of myself and start planning out these big things, and I have not been able to finish that yet, but that's coming eventually too. So thanks for watching. Talk to you later and have a good one.